What's up, everyone? Welcome to our very first episode of Interview on the Affluent. My name is Kwame Barbour, founder and CEO of Affluential Clothing, a mission-based streetwear brand that promotes the idea that wealth is a matter of inspiration. While there are many different ways to describe affluence, one may believe that it all ties back to wealth and how we express our wealthiness. Affluential Clothing, however, would like to redefine affluence and showcase affluence as a mindset rather than a lifestyle. Through these interviews, we hope to expand the world's perspective on what the word wealth means. With that being said, we're honored to be joined by our very first guest, Phil J. Whyte.
What's up?
Phil J., I appreciate you for taking the time today and just taking this opportunity to share your perspective with everyone else. You know, for those of them who don't know who you are, please tell us, what is your name and how would you best describe yourself?
Well, I'm Phil J. I mean, the first thing I want to say is I've always wanted to do something like this. But I guess the first thing is I'm Jamaican. I go to Fairfield University. I'm a sophomore. I love music. It's one of my favorite things of all time. And
top song right now?
Oh, God. I've been listening to Renaissance a lot. So anything from Beyonce at this moment. But yeah, I consider myself like a multifaceted person. I've always just been interested in a bunch of different things. So yeah, that's pretty much what I say.
Got you. If there's one value that you'll live by, what would that be?
Just be nice to people. Honestly, I grew up knowing, my mom always said this one thing. She was always like, no man is an island. So no matter what you do, just remember to take in consideration other people. So I guess the biggest thing is just be nice to people because you really just never know what someone's going through in their day.
I definitely think that goes a long way. I think that ties hand in hand with respect as well.
Mm-hmm.
I even say that here at the university. You don't know how much a difference that just smiling at someone could be, or just saying hello,
honestly.
Asking them how their day are. A lot of times when our cafeteria workers come to work, a lot of people ignore their presence. They just get their food, complain about the food, and then leave the cafeteria however it is. So
that's also really interesting because even now that you mentioned like the workers here, I even think about how when I was a freshman living in the dorms, how I remember just always being one of the only people to say hi to like the janitors. Yeah. It's like really interesting. And obviously most of them are minorities at the school, so I don't know, it's different. But I just think you should always just respect people, no matter if they're a lawyer or a janitor. Like, I mean, we're all human beings at the end of the day, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly, and even with that, that's really the idea of the podcast. Not that there's nothing wrong with them being janitors, but just seeing them outside of that role. Sometimes we look at people negatively based off of their job, not really knowing what their true interests are, how they ended up in this job, or where they plan to go.
Yeah, even, I guess, one of the biggest takeaways from life is that I see this one thing all the time that says you never know what's going to happen to you. So one wrong step, or one step in a different direction could change your life in a whole different trajectory. And you never know for what person how, that one thing changed their life so that they end up being, either a lawyer, janitor, or whatever in between.
Exactly, but that also goes back to self-reflection and gratitude as well, just taking that time to step back and be grateful for what you have going on, actually understand what got you to where you are today.
Yep.
But just keeping that in mind, how would you say that you measure success?
I think as long as you're proud of yourself, because I know that success is something that's relative. If we think about it from like an academic perspective, I feel like, some people are more capable of getting like A's, some people are not. I think just as long as you know what you can do, set a standard for yourself, and you achieve that, I think that's success. I know for me, I think everyone's aware of what they can accomplish. So if you're someone that can get an A, you get that A, that's cool. If you just know that you can only get a C in that class, and you got the C, then that should be success as well. I don't think it should be like, the top tier, like the top thing has to be success. I think it's just different for everyone because everyone's different.
I think that's very important too, though, because the same way you say, if you know that you're capable of getting that C, if you got that C, it's something to be proud of.
Yeah,
it's like we have that self-awareness that we're only able to get that C, but we're still looking at everybody else that has that A.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with striving for the top, but we got to be self-aware. Just know that we can't do all those things. Like, I know for me, I started off engineering at Fairfield, and now I'm in arts and sciences, and I see these bio majors, and I'm like, I can never do what you're doing. I can never do what you're doing, and it's just one of those things. I think everyone should measure success differently because success doesn't necessarily mean 100 or an A++. Like, It could just be you did what you had to do with all the tools and resources you had, and then that's the outcome. And you should be proud of yourself regardless.
Gotcha. You just talked about not being able to do everything, not being able to do everything. You also talked about switching your major. So,
yeah.
My question to you is, what would you do with your life today if you knew you couldn't fail?
I feel like I probably want to go into the music business, honestly. Because I grew up, I did actually, I think, 11, 12 years of performing arts when I was living in Jamaica. At 5 to 16, so 11 years, yeah. So music was a big part of my life, especially being Jamaican. So, it's like in the culture. I feel like when it comes to like the arts, it's usually not that much of a well-respected thing, especially when you're from come from a different country. Not saying that that wouldn't be supported if I went into it, but it's always just like art isn't something that you can make money off of. It's usually the topic. So it's like, well, if you want to go into the music business, maybe do business. Like study business so that you're like for sure gonna make money. But I feel like if I knew that I couldn't fail, I feel like I'd be happy as doing that. And I mean, with my majors right now, double major in international studies and public relations, I feel like I could easily go into the music business and, do A&R and stuff like that. I don't think I'd actually want to make music. But I definitely think that I'd want to, have a hand in, releasing stuff.
Gotcha. I like that because you talked about wanting to do music, but also making that connection within your academic studies. Because one thing that we did talk about before was just people majoring in things that they don't really want to do. That's real. Just for the sake of making money. So that's real. At least that your major still ties to your passion in some way.
I mean, I think there's something to be said about that, though, because I'm personally one of those people. I can't just choose a major just because, when I leave college, I'm going to make the most money out of it. Like, I would be miserable doing something I wasn't passionate about. So, I mean, if you can do that, that's cool. But for me, it's not going to work out.
I felt that full transparency. I'm a management and finance major. I have a finance job, but my dream is not really finance, I would love to use my finance job to fund all my other businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, definitely just things like that. But knowing that failure is a possibility, how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated every day?
I just manifest. I've been telling myself this new thing that was like, I want to be delusional because I feel like delusion is a part of manifestation. Because
delusion is not healthy.
I think it's healthy to an extent. I feel like if you set a goal for yourself, like let's say like I'm thinking about grad school right now, right? So if I'm like, I want to apply to Yale or I want to apply to Columbia or something like that, like I can be delusional and say, yeah, I'm going to do that. But at the end of the day, I know that I have the grades and I know that I have like the recommendation letters. I know that I have all the things that would give me, a possibility to get in. Right. So I feel like the way the delusion comes into it is like you can be delusional by setting like higher goals for yourself that, you might not, be able to, or people might say, you can't accomplish that. But at the end of the day, if you know that you at least have a chance, that even if it's like 0.0001%, of getting in, just take the chance. So I just say manifest it. Just manifest everything, work hard for it, and you'll reap the results afterwards.
I like that. I might take my statement back on delusion is not healthy. In this situation at least, I really like what you said about, if you set those higher goals for yourself, you will feel more confident in yourself and your ability to achieve those things. And I feel like that's definitely something that we target through Affluential Clothing, just the idea that wealth is a matter of inspiration and it's truly a mindset rather than a lifestyle. When we think about wealth, we oftentimes think about money and what it will take to get that money. But if we really just had that belief in our own ideas, we would be able to reach that point. Yeah. Moving into our last set of questions, what would you like to be remembered for?
Damn, I didn't see this one. I didn't think about this. I really want to be, now that I've been thinking more about my career after college, I realized that I want to do something that I can be remembered having a hand in people's success. Okay. In terms of, I feel like my purpose in life is to help other people. And nothing gives me more joy than to help people that, aren't necessarily in the best situations and to see them come out successful in the end. And I realized that when I was a camp counselor over the summer, and, a lot of these kids come from, Bridgeport, they don't have the best home experiences or stuff like that. And it just made me reflect on my life, and I really haven't had to go through. I'm very privileged, like even as a Black person, like I'm aware that I have a lot of privilege that a lot of people don't have.
Right.
So yeah, I just know I've always also just wanted to start an organization to help kids get into college. I think I might end up doing that in the future still, but I definitely just want to help people. I want to make them live better lives than they previously lived in the past.
Got you. That's interesting because I feel like I'm kind of the same way. I've went to Catholic and Jesuit schools all my academic life, and throughout all that I was doing, I never noticed how much like the Jesuit values really rubbed off on me, I guess. Just that idea of being a man with and for others has really been shown in like all that I've done, not only at high school but here in college as well. And it's just like we do so much, and every time we achieve something, we try to achieve something else that we don't stop and really pay attention to the impact that we may have left behind. So now that I'm a senior, I'm in my last semester, and everybody's like, oh, my God, you've done so many great things over the last 4 years. I sit and try to think, and I forget a lot of the things that I've done.
No, like that's honestly, I feel like I was having a conversation with someone about this. I feel like me personally, I've always had trouble even acknowledging my own like accomplishments, because in my head, I'm just like, well, it's kind of normal for me.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm just doing what I would do regardless. So even if it's like a big thing, I still feel like, oh, well, that's it, and then what's next, and do that, and just it's like a continuous cycle of that. So I feel that.
So is there any way that you've learned to like help with that,
I feel like just being grateful that I got to do it. I feel like when you set goals, I'm usually more focused on the long term. So when short-term goals, even if it's like a part of that long-term goal, happen, I'm just like, oh, well, cool. It's just like cool. But now I'm just like, you just got to celebrate every single milestone, because at the end of the day, if you're going towards something that's, progressing your life in any way, or, getting you to get a goal sooner or whenever, it's a big thing.
Got you. You talked about setting long-term goals. I'm a strong believer in, even when we set those long-term goals, we have to set those shorter-term goals. Yeah. But then short-term goals for those short-term goals. Yeah. So what I mean by that is like every day I make a to-do list. I need to be successful for the day. To feel accomplished for the day, I have to see exactly what I need to do.
That's right.
And take it point by point.
No, I feel that because I literally have a whole Google Doc of just all the things I have to do from like right now till like I think like April, like because I just walk around, I talk to people, get opportunities like this, and I'm like, okay, well, let me go put this on the Google Doc. And then I'm just like, oh, I'm here, call me at 4 o'clock. Cool. All right, bet.
Got you. With that being said, how do you think you can increase your value?
I think the first part of increasing your value is to see it within yourself first. Because the thing about that is if you don't see your self-worth or if you don't have enough self-respect for yourself, people aren't going to see that. And people will use that to their advantage. And unfortunately, a lot of good people get, that happens to a lot of good people who with like genuine, pure hearts. And I just think that as long as you are aware of yourself and what you bring to the table, that's the first thing increasing your value, because then everyone else will kind of follow suit. Like when you see your value, you'll shine through the room and everyone will be attracted to that. And then nobody can tell you, what you got to do or what you want to do, because at the end of the day, you're just like, well, I know what I can do.
Right.
And even if you say I can't do this, I'm just like, well, I'm going to do it regardless. And then you tell me you can't do it again, I'm going to do it again.
So why do you think that people don't recognize their own self-value?
I think society as a whole just makes it really hard for people to just like have any sense of identity in terms of like, it's almost like you're not supposed to be okay with, I'll say this in a way, it's like if you accomplish something and you say something about it, you kind of feel like maybe I shouldn't share that, because then you don't want other people to feel bad. And even though you're just putting that out there, you did this, in the back of your head it's still lingering that, I don't want to come off as boastful, I don't want to come off as cocky, stuff like that.
I understand that, because even now, now that I take the time and I do think of some of the things that I do, it's like, maybe I don't always want to talk about the business, maybe I don't always want to talk about what's going on in school, because what does everybody else think about that? But I feel like social comparison is really a killer. of self-esteem and self-confidence.
And the thing about that too that I've heard is like when people see you trying to achieve goals for yourself and they don't have the willpower to do the same thing for themselves, they just get jealous.
Okay.
And then I think that is a reason why, a lot of relationships end over time, because it's like, not everyone can come to the top with you, unfortunately. And some people you're going to have to let go along the way. But I do think that, as far as value goes, like, again, as long as you respect yourself, the right people will follow.
Understandable. Final question for you, what does affluence mean to you?
Affluence to me means a healthy mind. I feel like if you are somebody who cares for people and you use your status to help other people, I think the wealth comes from there. I don't necessarily believe in, obviously financial wealth is like something, but that's also just a really obvious, like on the nose answer. But I do feel like you can have all the money in the world, but at the end of the day, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? I believe that.
What are you doing with it? But even if you do have all that money in the world, are you truly happy with how you got that money?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, because even when I was thinking, like contemplating dropping engineering, I was like, I'm going to make like over 100K, like, and I probably won't have to go to grad school. But I'm like, I want to go to grad school. I hate this major. I'm doing well academically, but mentally, I'm not doing that well. And as soon as I listened to myself and I stepped out of that box of just like, okay, money over passion, is when I started really, like, I guess growing into myself, because I feel like I needed to take that step of like, get to self-actualization. I'm like much closer. I feel like that really just helped with that.
So taking those steps and experiencing that transition, what words of advice do you have to everyone watching?
Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and she said that the thing about the brain is that it filters every single conversation you've had or everything that you've heard. It's just like in your brain. Your body, however, is not affected by anything that anyone says.
Okay.
So if you are thinking of making this big transition in your head, she taught me this thing. She was like, when you're thinking of if you made the right decision or a bad decision, you should close your eyes, and then what do you see in your head? And at that time, I saw just like, like it was like a cycle of just like black, just like rings or something in my head. And then when she asked me, do you think about something that was a good decision that you made? And then I literally just felt peace in my whole body when I closed my eyes. So I think that even though getting input from other people is important, at the end of the day, you're the person who knows yourself the best. And if you want to do something, it doesn't matter. It's your life. Just do it.
Facts. I felt that. I think that's a good spot to end. Phil J., I appreciate you for your time today. Like I said, just sharing your perspectives with the world, and definitely being our very first guest. We're definitely honored to have you here today.
No problem. Honored to be the first guest.